It's the 18th of September. Thanks for joining us on TNT and tweak, a little bit more clarification on some of the new visas that are around. And we're still waiting for a little bit more clarification about the long stay visas. They were promising simplification by September. Here we are. We still don't know, but I think that is still on the horizon. Also, you won't be surprised, we're going to be talking weather. So we'll start with the bleeding obvious, and we go to nation Thailand. Heavy rain forecast for most of Thailand. Let's check what's going on here. And we've got Thailand down here, but approaching, let's go up to the top first. We've got Pulasan, which is clearly turning into a typhoon from just a tropical storm. Again, heading for poor old Shanghai. That should arrive sometime tomorrow. And then down here between the Philippines and Vietnam in the South China Sea, we've got this rather boringly named 98W, which is a tropical storm heading for Da Nang at the moment, should make landfall very late tonight, and that will also be heading into northeast Thailand. So if we check the map this morning, we can see quite a lot of rain activity already around the central Vietnamese coast, also in the southwestern coast of Vietnam, and along the Andaman coast of Thailand, and up in central Thailand as well. So that's a bit of a snapshot of what's coming up. We'll have a look at the current flooding situation a bit later on in the program. Just to remind some people who are a bit confused about typhoons and hurricanes and stuff. So they're called hurricanes when they develop over the North Atlantic, Central North Pacific and Eastern North Pacific. These rotating storms are known as cyclones when they form over the South Pacific and Indian Ocean and in Australia, and typhoons when they develop in the Northwest Pacific. So these are identical weather systems. They get their power over the oceans and then they make landfall and cause a whole lot of destructions, but essentially just concentrated low pressure systems. Now, speaking of pressure, what's happening with visas? There have been a few tweaks, and once again, thanks to patiamail.com, we've got a little bit more clarification. And again, synthesised by Barry Kenyon from patiamail.com, a Thai government tweaks guidelines on latest visas. So specifically, we've got the DTV, the Destination Thailand visa, that's new, and also this visa exemption, which has been extended from 30 days to 60 days in, we'll say, 93 plus countries, probably the country where you come from, and you can also add a 30-day extension onto that to make a total of 90 days stay in Thailand without having to pre-apply for a visa. But a few tweaks. Let's go to the article by Barry. And the Interior Ministry has issued fresh guidelines for the much-discussed Destination Thailand visa and the Boost 4 visa exempt tourists from 30 to 60 days. And the DTV is seen as a groundbreaking visa as it frees remote workers from needing a work permit as long as their employment is with overseas companies or contractors. And a bit of a tweak here, the ministry has now doubled down, insisting that such work must not impinge in any way on the Thai economy. Well, try and figure that out, as Barry says, a rather broad restriction, but clearly they don't want you to be doing any work here in Thailand that might be impacting Thai people perhaps doing the same sort of work. Let's go on and move into the visa exemption. Those tourists entering Thailand with visa exempt 60 days, that's the vast majority, they must watch their step when they're not sightseeing. And we know that the visa did allow for occasional ad hoc or urgent work, but the Interior Ministry now states that whilst attending occasional meetings is okay, temporary work permits, maximum of 2 for 15 days each, will be needed for the more weighty stuff mentioned above. That's things like repairing machinery, auditing accounts, or inspecting products. But things like a quick business meeting or maybe attending a conference, that would be considered ad hoc. But now moving into the longer stay visas, this projected overhaul, and this overhaul is taking quite a long time because, of course, it does involve quite a lot of different departments, but Thai are clearly trying to bring the whole visa immigration system, sort of dragging it into the 21st century. The article says it's probably going to encompass a great deal more. Government spokespeople last July pointed out the types of non-immigrant visas should be reduced as functions such as medical tourism, family visas and permission to make movies in Thailand might be subsumed by the new DTV. So maybe some of those things will be covered by the Destination Thailand visa. But the long stay visas, there are currently 17. They announced earlier this year that they're going to try and bring those down to just 7 categories. And that will cover at some stage in the future different rules for retirees under the OA and O extension of stay regulations. So the long stay visas in Thailand have been much the same for at least a couple of decades. Mind you, during the Prayut government, they started dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but really there were no substantial changes. I now think we are going through a period of change. Hopefully we'll know by the end of the year. My tip is they're probably going to make things easier rather than harder, but we don't know as yet. Moving on to the ETA, or the Electronic Travel Authorization, which next year will require all visa-exempt travellers to seek permission in advance of their journey. And some reports were saying that this will start rolling out from December this year and brings Thailand in line with a lot of other countries that are already requiring ETAs. Again, as we've said before, if people do want to double down on immigration rules, double down on border control, then these are some of the moves that governments around the world are going to have to take. Just as a general comment, Barry finishes by saying the visa overhaul also gives an opportunity for the Immigration Bureau to influence the upcoming bureaucracy. There are so many agencies involved in publicity about visas. TAT, Board of Investment, the Thai Cabinet, of course, the Department of Labour, you've also got the Ministry of Interior, that it's often forgotten that the actual implementation is performed by immigration officers at airports and borders. And so far, the Immigration Bureau has been strictly silent. So I'm sure a lot of you are a little bit worried about what might be happening with the long stay visas, particularly things like the retirement visa. We've really just got to wait. I don't think there's anything to worry about. In fact, I'm fairly positive that things are going to be made clearer and easier, but we will just have to wait. So time to talk land bridges, but we'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors, 5-Star Marine at 5starmarinephuket.com and Beach House Thailand. Now, 5-Star Marine, they've got their Captain's Choice program, so even when the weather's a bit iffy like it is today, they've got their radars and all their radios, and they can check where there's still going to be a really nice beach and a great place to take you, so you can still enjoy yourself even on these, well, rather blustery days. Now let's talk land bridges, and we go to the Bangkok Post. Locals want Southern Corridor land bridge axed. And a group of Southern residents are calling on the government to revoke 2 Southern Economic Corridor bills and scrap the land bridge mega project, saying they will severely impact their way of life. About 50 people from the Pato Ranong Conservation Network gathered at the Pumjai Thai Party headquarters on Monday. And they say the bills would create an independent state for investors with certain rights deemed above the law, including the ability to relax labour and land use regulations and exemption from any proceedings aimed at safeguarding and preserving the environment and natural resources. Well, no matter how they do the project, even if they do it as a canal, they're basically cutting Thailand in half with a great big canal through the middle. Or with the land bridge, that's a hell of a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built, and it will have some sort of environmental impact. And the corridor will cover 4 southern provinces, Chumpon, Ranong, Suratani and Nakhon Si Thammarat. It also includes the land bridge connecting Chumpon on the Gulf of Thailand to Ranong on the Andaman Sea. And the project envisions a deep sea port in both provinces, plus a motorway and railway system connecting them. Numerous academics and experts in the field of logistics have also expressed doubts about the project's ability to reduce logistic costs or expedite procedures. Just in case you've been living under a rock, the red there denotes the area where the land bridge will go, allowing ships to go from one side of the Gulf of Thailand into the Andaman Sea and vice versa. Basically, the pink part is the suggested route for the new land bridge, the yellow bits being a 13, 5 and 3 kilometre long tunnel with deep sea ports at either end. So, a few Southerners voicing their opinion about the land bridge project. Still a lot of water to go under that particular bridge, but we go from the very, very big to the seemingly rather significant, but something that has just been taking over social media over the past 24 hours. And PathiaNews.com, the PathiaNews.com says social media outrages tourists blatantly urinates on Pattaya Beach. Mayor prepares to take action. So some commenters are complaining that I often look at the news from a sort of a Western or English language bias. Well, this is the sort of thing that's consuming Thai media at the moment. Thai social media users are outraged after a video surfaced online showing male tourists blatantly urinating on Pattaya Beach. And the caption was "Swimmers swim and urinators urinate." And of course it went viral. And people are questioning why the beachgoer didn't use the available restrooms. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're ahead of me. We'll get to that in a moment. And Pattaya locals are questioning why the beachgoer didn't use the available restrooms. They also expressed concerns that the tourists' reckless behaviours could ruin Pattaya's reputation as a world-class family-friendly tourist destination and deter other tourists from visiting Pattaya City. And meanwhile, the Pattaya mayor has been informed of the incident and is preparing to take legal action against the tourists involved. The city plans to enforce regulations under the Cleanliness Act, as such actions can negatively impact cleanliness and the city's tourism image. So let's be quite clear, there isn't a day goes by when I don't see exactly the same thing happening from Thais jumping out of their car or off their motorbike and doing exactly the same thing. Just so happens that this has been caught on somebody's mobile phone and is making its way around social media. So really, just control your outrage for just a moment, or we might start taking photos of Thais doing exactly the same thing, and we certainly don't want that. Well, let's go to some of the damage that's been caused by these floods up in, well, particularly the north of Thailand and surrounding countries at the moment. And Typhoon Yagi, well past now, has killed almost 300 people in Vietnam, 42 in Thailand, and 4 in Laos. And the death toll in Myanmar is at least 226, with 77 people missing. We go to the Bangkok Post now, and it reports northeast to bear brunt of new typhoon's wrath. And the meteorological department has warned that a typhoon, well, it's not a typhoon, it's a tropical storm, will strike Thailand on Friday, resulting in heavy rain, sudden floods and landslides, with the northeast of Thailand expected to bear the brunt. A spokesman from the TMD says the storm is expected to enter Thailand's upper north this Friday or sooner before stopping and creating low-pressure areas. And as we've mentioned all this week, it's still perfectly safe to come to Thailand in the vast majority of cases. But if you are flying around or driving around, it'd be a good idea just to do a bit of homework to make sure that you're not driving into a problem area. Now, an incident happened this week some 17 years ago. And like a lot of incidents in Thailand, once they happened, the Thais like to clean up and then forget about those particular incidents. And this particular incident remembered by Chukayat Ayuperm on his Facebook page. And a bit of a mistake there. It actually should be the 16th of September back in 2007. The 1-2-Go plane slides off a runway in Phuket. 89 people died in that particular incident at Phuket Airport, and 1 later succumbed to their injuries. And it was an MD-80 flying really in the sort of quite similar conditions as we've had the last few days. It had to go around and it crashed on its second attempted landing. And as well pointed out by the PhuketNews.com, Phuket Airport again ignores the anniversary of the 1-2-Go crash. And Airports of Thailand, which operates the Phuket International Airport, has again held no official memorial service in Phuket to remember the 90 people who died in the crash of 12Go flight OG 269. So nothing, no acknowledgement. It's a bit the same when it comes to the tsunami memorials each year. When you go to the memorials, it's mostly Western people attending. It's just another one of these Thai cultural things when there's bad memories or maybe bad spirits involved. The Thais just want to forget about it and move on. But we would like to acknowledge that 17 years ago, those 89 people, another person succumbed to their injuries. So 90 people died from that 12Go crash at Phuket. And with that, thank you very much for dropping in today as we whip around Thailand, checking all the main news stories. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow.